So, today we're diving into the crisis that's escalating and fast in the Strait of Hormuz. This tiny strip of water has become the stage for a really high stakes game of chicken between global superpowers.
And that really is the question at the heart of this whole thing, isn't it? It's a question that gets to the very core of what power even means in the 21st century.
All right, so our story kicks off with a really bold move, an attempt to control one of the planet's most important waterways, and, well, the immediate defiant response that nobody saw coming.
The United States basically drew a line in the sand, a full naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. And the goal? Super simple, super absolute. Stop. All ships. Period.
But, reality had other plans. The very next day, 34 ships sailed right on through. And we're not talking about a handful of vessels. That was the most traffic the strait had seen since this whole crisis began. The blockade was pretty much a failure from day one.
And right in the middle of all this, you've got this one ship, the Rich Story, a Chinese-owned tanker loaded with a whole lot of methanol. But here's the kicker. This wasn't just any tanker. This was a vessel the U.S. had already put on its blacklist. So sending it through? That was a calculated, direct challenge.
And the message from the crew was just as direct. I mean, you've got the U.S. Navy staring you down, and the Chinese owners basically said, nope, this is our ship, we are the owners, and we are going through. It was just this moment of pure geopolitical defiance playing out right there on the water.
Now, a move this gutsy, well, it's going to make waves, right? The global reaction was fast and it was sharp, and it really showed the cracks forming in the international community.
Iran, of course, couldn't help themselves. They just had to jump in with some mockery. I mean, check out this quote from their embassy in Ghana. It's just dripping with sarcasm. It perfectly sums up how they saw the American blockade. Not as a serious threat, but as, a minor annoyance you can just skip.
But look, underneath all that sarcasm, there's a real jab, a real geopolitical taunt. What Iran was basically screaming to the world was, see, the U.S. only flexes its muscle against nations it isn't actually afraid of. It's a direct shot at the credibility of American power.
And it turns out, this defiance wasn't a one-off thing. Oh no. A new axis, a new team-up, started to take shape, and fast. China wasn't just acting alone, it was openly against the blockade. And Russia? They came out and said they were standing firmly with Iran. Their message, together, was loud and clear. This kind of American bullying, as they called it, just isn't going to fly anymore.
So, just when you think you know who's on which side, the story throws us a curveball. And maybe the most shocking reaction of all came from a place you would least expect it, one of America's closest allies in the region.
So the Wall Street Journal drops this report, and it turns out Saudi Arabia is getting really, really nervous. Instead of backing the U.S.'s play, they're pushing them, both behind the scenes and in public, to just cool it.
And you gotta understand the different thinking here. It's like they're playing two completely different games. The U.S. thinks, okay, we blockade Hormuz, we pressure Iran. Simple. But Saudi Arabia is looking at this like a line of dominoes about to fall. They're afraid Iran will just retaliate by closing the other major choke point, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, using its Houthi allies. And the end result? It wouldn't just wreck the Saudi economy. It would literally cripple all oil exports from the Gulf. That would send a massive shockwave through the entire global economy.
So, this is the message they're sending straight to Washington. It's a really direct plea to ditch the confrontation and try talking instead. For the Saudis, the time for fighting is over. They think a negotiated solution is the only path forward. And that shows a major crack in the alliance.
Okay, so let's put it all together. You've got defiance, you've got mockery, you've got your own allies telling you to back off. This isn't just about one field policy anymore. We're seeing the whole game start to change.
I mean, think about the chain of events here. 1, the U.S. president announces this big, tough blockade. 2, China, backed by Russia, just sails right through it. 3, a key ally, Saudi Arabia, says, hey, stop this. And 4, the whole thing just ends up showing everyone the limits of American power on the world stage.
And that brings us to the biggest takeaway of all. The whole story has changed. This is not just U.S. versus Iran anymore.
No, what's happening now is that this whole thing is escalating. It's quickly turning into U.S. versus China. The Strait of Hormuz is no longer just some regional dispute. It's become the flashpoint, the main event, in a much, much bigger global rivalry. And so, we're back to where we started, with that huge question. As this blockade crumbles, are we just watching a policy fail? Or are we actually witnessing a massive, historic shift in who holds the power on the world stage?